30th February started when I first went to a museum in Florida, and when I first saw the Dali's work on the wall, I was like, wow, that's really amazing. Can I do something like that in photography? So I decided to try that out, and when I went back to Michigan, I started taking out all my images and seeing what worked, what don't work, started sketching, putting images together, and I went into the darkroom and started merging the different photos that I have. And when I first put them together and saw them for the first time, I was like, wow, this really can work, and photography also can be done in such a manner. As this project started in the pre-Photoshop days, so everything was done in the darkroom. And the technique that I actually use is to use multiple enlargers. So in each separate enlarger, I have separate image. For example, an image like this would be in separate enlargers. And so in this case, there are 3 enlargers used. So in the first enlarger, everything will be marked off and blocked, and only this image will appear on the photo paper, and subsequently the rest. So as I move from enlarger to enlarger, the image will start to merge. And then finally, when all 3 are put together, the image looks like this. But you cannot see this image until the photo paper has gone into the developer. So it's always, crossing your fingers and hoping that you're precise enough that this thing will be blended properly. So it's a very tedious process that few would like to do. But because it's pre-Photoshop days and nobody know that Photoshop is going to come along, it was a very interesting technique, very interesting process. A lot of times I sketch out my work. I have a sketchbook that I carry with me all the time, and I also have loose pieces of photos that I've shot previously, and I'll start looking at them and see how I can put them together, and I will start sketching things like that, and I'll see, well, maybe it worked, maybe it won't. Sometimes this will be turned into photographic images, at other times it remains as a sketch. And like for example, this too, it remains as a sketch. I never gotten down to doing it at all. Here, I was trying to merge a pillar, and I don't know which way to go, whether the pillar is coming down and turning into a tree, or the pillar is going up and it turns into a tree. I'm not very sure about it, so I just sketch both and allow myself to evolve along with the idea. And so I shot a pillar, just like that. And I shot a tree after shooting about 200 tree trunks, and finally settled on this. And when this was merged together in the darkroom, the final image actually looks like this. So it's, from here it's hard to imagine that the initial images are like this. So that's how I conceptualize my work. For Project 37, the National Stadium have been serving us for 37 years actually. And when the news broke out that it was going to be down, I became very interested, and I said, well, why can't I do something about it? I think at least it should be captured on film. But I pursued it, and every week I was there. And at the end of the whole project, I realized that I was one of the very few, perhaps the only one, that have captured it quite consistently throughout the whole 5 months. Whenever I start a project, I think the equipment is important to me. So I have to look at the project holistically and decide, okay, what camera should I use? In this case, I use the large format, the 4x5. And this is basically just to slow me down, to think about it, to look more carefully and decide before I do any shoot. I don't want the digital part of it to get over me, whereby I'll be shooting tons of pictures but getting nothing. Of course, there were many occasions whereby I went down and after spending 3 hours there and I shot nothing, absolutely nothing. But there was an occasion like this whereby I went and I saw this and I said, wow, I can never miss this shot. It was a cross-section of the seats, and I do not know and I do not understand why it was demolished halfway and they went on to the other side and continued the demolition process. So leaving a triangle that we can see right through it. And this is a site that only was up for probably only a week and it was gone. Actually, it's quite interesting to see how this entire place unfolded itself from a full stadium finally to two stockpile of just concrete and sand and just rocks, and really turning it back to a landscape. People usually ask me, how many pictures do you shoot for each image? And my reply is simple, it's just one. I make my decision very clearly. I will walk around the place, spend time looking at the place before I decided where the camera should be and how should I face it and how long it should be exposed, where the lighting, and etc. And once I make that decision, I will make that one shot. It is a moment whereby it is not about how many pictures I'm taking, but whether I made the correct picture. I have been shooting iconic buildings for a while right now, for example, City Hall, Supreme Court, the Command House, and right now, the railway station. The first angle that I've selected was not very ideal because there were some apartments nearby and was just coming into the view, so I wasn't really quite keen on that. So I moved the camera lower actually, where the shrubs is, as it leads our eyes back into the building where I want people to see. The second thing that was important was the sky. I needed the clouds to be moving into a certain position so that I could accentuate certain portions of the building and giving it a mood and the space that I want the viewers to feel. Shooting film is a little bit different from digital. In this case, for PN, after shooting and taking out from the camera, I have to wait for about 30 seconds for the film to develop. When that's done, I'll have to peel it apart, seeing the film for the first time, and after liking the image, and if I decided to keep the image, I will be soaking it into a sodium sulfite chemical. This basically stops the aging process and clean up the film a little bit, and I'll keep it in this container. Coming back to the dark room, what I have to do is to take this film out from the sodium sulfite, and then I have to put in another chemical called fixer. Fixing the image basically stabilizes it. After that, I'll have to do a wash and hang it to dry. After all the films are dried, the next step that I have to do is to actually go through a selection process where I pick the best film, and that film will be used to scan and it will be worked on in Photoshop later on. Looking ahead, I think the important thing for me to do is to inculcate and educate the younger generation in the pursuit of photography. Hi, I'm Chow Chee Yong. I'm a photographer, educator.